Okay, we made it. It's Friday. Woo! Congratulations. You have done a fabulous job this week. We did a ton of brainstorming, a ton of pre-writing, and I am proud of you. So the very first thing I want to tell you, did you hear back from me? When you emailed me yesterday to practice on your new email account, did you get a response from me? You should have. I responded to everybody who emailed me. If you didn't email or didn't receive an email back, that probably means you need to write a follow-up email and make sure that everything was right, like in the subject line, who it was addressed to, all that stuff. Loved hearing from you. I loved hearing all the stuff that you're doing. I miss you guys. So we are going to move forward. The bulk of this week has been just brainstorming ideas for our podcasts. And so usually we only take 5 to 10 minutes to do a pre-write. And this week we have done every single day pre-writing. So some things that we should have learned are some social justice terms. We looked at the different ways we can format our podcasts. Those are all things that are going to come into play here. Now, we're going to move into scripting a podcast, and I need to tell this 3 times. You do not have a script for your podcast due today. 2 more times. You do not have a script due today. Last time. You do not have to give me a final or even a draft of a script today. I just want to make sure we're clear. So we are going to work through kind of an outline for a script. I sent something to you where you can jot down your ideas, but we're just going to kind of go through what the beginning, middle, and end should look like. So like any piece of writing, we're going to be doing an introduction, a middle, and a conclusion. And your middle is going to have the bulk of your information. So let's start with introduction. Your introduction should tell me who you are, not just your name, but where you come from, what gives you credibility. To talk about the topic you're talking about, you can say what school you go to, that you're a student, you're a researcher, whatever you want to say. You're going to introduce yourself, but do not include your last name on it. You also want to include introductions to whoever is going to be on your show. So if you're going to be interviewing dad, make sure you say who your dad is, explain who he is. If you're interviewing your dog, or your dog's involved in some way, you need to at least introduce who they are in your show. Then you're going to introduce your show. What's the name of it? What's your concept? I tried to do a little bit of modeling for you. We're the Melon Show. Just so that it has a title and they can associate your episodes with your channel. Next, introduce your topic. This is as easy saying, today we're going to be talking about ... So just make sure it's clear, make sure it's early. It should be in your introduction. Then you're going to explain where your idea came from. Like, what made you think this was super, super important? What made you decide that this was something that the world really needed to hear about? So what inspired you, basically? What it should not look like is, hey, I got this idea because my teacher, Ms. Schmidt, had me fill out a form that said, what's wrong in the world? And I said hunger. Like, that's not what it should look like. Explain a little bit more to me why it's important to you. And then the last thing is hook. We talked about just like really good introduction, what kind of hooks you can use. It could be quotes. It could be hitting them with a really hard, interesting fact. It could be asking a question. It could be starting with a narrative. It could be something dramatic to start, a clip, anything like that, just to kind of grab their attention. Just to review who you are and who the rest of the people who are in your podcast are. Introduce your show, introduce your topic. Where did your idea come from? And make sure you include a hook. So your middle is going to be the bulk of what you're doing. This is where it's going to be very heavy, very meaty. This is going to be the part where, like, if I'm listening, I'm pulling out a pencil and I'm writing stuff down and getting inspired by what you're saying and making sure I'm getting the facts down. So what research supports your thoughts? You need to make sure you've got research that supports your ideas, your thoughts, where you're going. What data supports your thoughts? Give me some numbers, throw some statistics out there. What is going to support your idea? What evidence proves your point of view? Remember, you can include point of view in this. You just need to give me evidence that supports that. In the podcast we listened to earlier, somebody said right away, hey, I'm a little biased because here's where I stand. Great to include that too. Then what are some vocab words that you need to define during the description of your topic? Like, what are some things that you might need to explain to your reader or your listener? So for example, food desert might be a word that comes up. And I know what a food desert is. I'm sure there are a lot of adults who know, but I don't know if a ton of kids know what a food desert is. So you want to make sure you're saying like a food desert, a place in a city that experiences a lot of poverty, that doesn't have a lot of access to fresh fruits and vegetables, whatever it is, you want to just kind of give them a description of what it is. And then you want to include quotes about your thoughts. So we talked about this earlier when we were doing biography, but a good technique is not to just put quote after quote after quote after quote. No explanation, no context. Like, that is not a good way to engage your audience. As amazing as like Martin Luther King Jr.'s quotes are, I don't want to sandwich them together because then I'm just reading from a book, right? I want to make sure that I'm including a quote, giving some thoughts about it, giving some context. When did they write this? Why is it important? Think about like the Bible. Your pastor is going to stop in between reading the Bible